She gave birth and her husband left, but her billionaire boss said, "I'm here for you." She gave birth alone, and the father? He left a note and disappeared. In a cold hospital room, Sarah held her newborn baby, trembling, abandoned just hours after labor. No family, no husband, no answers, and just when she whispered, "Please, someone come," the door opened, not with flowers, not with pity, but with a quiet voice that changed everything. "You're not alone. I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." She thought she'd lost everything. She had no idea. It was the beginning of something she never imagined, a second chance. With a man no one expected, her billionaire boss. Before we continue, if you enjoy touching and inspiring stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Now, let's get back to the story. The baby cried. She cried harder. And in the cold silence of the hospital room, Sarah clutched the tiny bundle to her chest like it was all she had left in the world, because in that moment it was. Tears slipped down her cheeks and into the baby's blanket. Her lips trembled as she pressed a kiss to the baby's forehead. The newborn let out a soft, muffled whimper. She whispered, brokenly, "Please, someone come." But no one did. The room, once bustling with nurses and congratulations, now sat hollow and still. The overhead lights buzzed faintly. The clock ticked with cruel precision. The bassinet beside her bed was untouched, and the second chair, the one meant for the father, was empty. Nathan had left 3 hours after she gave birth. No explanations, no apology, just a torn piece of paper with 6 words scribbled in his hurried handwriting, "I can't do this. Goodbye." That was it. Sarah stared at that note for what felt like years. She'd tucked it away in the drawer beside the bed, but she could still feel the weight of it, like a splinter in her chest. Her baby, her little girl, shifted in her arms, eyes fluttering open just enough to show hints of blue. A shaky smile tried to form on Sarah's lips. "Hey, sweetheart." Her voice was barely audible. "You don't deserve this." Another tear rolled down. She'd pictured this moment for months, holding her baby in her arms, Nathan beside her, whispering, "We did it." Family visiting, smiles, joy, relief. Instead, she was alone, aching from labor, eyes puffy from crying, and her heart split into pieces. She leaned her head back, eyes closing as exhaustion pulled at her like a tide. But she couldn't sleep. Not like this. Not knowing she was alone in this. She wasn't ready, and just as the silence threatened to swallow her again, the door creaked, her eyes snapped open, breath caught in her throat. A nurse? She turned her head slowly toward the door and froze. It wasn't a nurse. It wasn't her mother. It wasn't Nathan. It was him, Liam Grayson, her boss, the billionaire CEO, the man who ran Grayson Enterprises like it was a kingdom, and who barely had time to attend his own birthday party last month, much less a hospital room visit. He stood in the doorway, breath slightly uneven, holding a coffee cup in one hand and a small hospital blanket in the other. His gray-blue eyes scanned the room quickly, and then locked onto hers. And in that second, something shifted in his expression. Gone was the boardroom authority. Gone was the steel. What remained was something much more human, protective, almost tender. "Sarah," he said gently, like her name had just reminded him how fragile the moment was. She blinked, completely stunned. "I heard," he said, stepping in slowly. "My assistant told me you'd gone into labor yesterday, and when I tried to visit earlier, they said the room was restricted, so I waited." He hesitated before moving closer. "I didn't expect to find you alone." Sarah looked down, biting the inside of her cheek. She didn't want to talk about Nathan. Not now, not with him. But Liam didn't push. He placed the coffee on the bedside table and quietly draped the soft blanket over her legs. The gesture made her breath hitch. It was simple, gentle, human. "I brought this," he said, lifting the blanket corner with a faint, unsure smile. "Wasn't sure what you needed. I don't know how this works." She gave a soft laugh, more like a broken exhale, and whispered, "Neither do I." A long silence followed. Liam sat on the empty chair beside her bed, the same one Nathan had vacated, without a second thought. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes on the baby. "She's beautiful." Sarah looked down at her daughter, who was now sleeping again. "She doesn't even know he's gone," she said softly, like the words hurt her even more when spoken aloud. Liam glanced at her. She wiped her cheek quickly. "I'm sorry, I didn't expect you to come. You're my boss. This is personal." He shook his head. "I didn't come here as your boss." She met his eyes, unsure what that meant. He leaned back, pausing before he spoke again. "When my sister gave birth, she had her whole family around her, parents, husband, friends. I didn't realize until today how rare that actually is." Sarah said nothing, just held her baby a little tighter. Then he said it, something that caught her completely off guard. "I'm here for you?" She looked at him, eyes widening a little. He nodded once, his voice low but steady. "I don't know what happened or what you need right now, but whatever it is, you don't have to go through it alone." Sarah stared at him. The man who once terrified interns with a single eyebrow raise. The same man who once told her, "Efficiency is loyalty," during a meeting, as if emotions didn't exist in his vocabulary. And now, here he was, sitting beside her in a quiet hospital room, making a promise he didn't have to make. And that made her heart ache even more, because she wasn't sure why he cared, or if she could trust it, but something about the way he looked at her, not with pity, but with conviction, made her feel seen, really seen. For the first time in hours, her breathing slowed, and just as the baby stirred again in her arms, her voice trembled with a whisper. "Why are you doing this?" He looked at her, his answer quiet, honest. "Because I saw you cry in the elevator 2 months ago, and I didn't ask why." "I regret that," Sarah blinked. The memory hit like a wave. That night when she stayed late and broke down for 3 floors in silence, he was there. She never thought he'd noticed. And before she could say anything else, a faint knock came at the door again. This time, not a nurse. It was Nathan. And he wasn't alone. He had papers in his hand, and a woman by his side. Sarah's heart dropped. Liam stood slowly, his jaw tightened. Sarah clutched her baby, and just like that, the silence shattered again. Sarah felt her throat tighten as Nathan stepped into the room. He looked different, not just in his posture or the forced calm on his face, but in the way he avoided her eyes entirely. His hand was around the waist of a woman Sarah had never seen before, blonde, well-dressed, perfectly put together, like she belonged in a country club, not a hospital room where heartbreak lingered in the air. The woman didn't say a word. She just stood there, looking at Sarah like she was something broken on the floor. Nathan cleared his throat. "Hey." His voice was clipped, cold, as if he was here for a transaction. Sarah couldn't speak. Her arms tightened around her baby as the silence stretched too long. Liam stood beside her, tall and steady, like a wall she hadn't realized she needed. His eyes flicked between Nathan and the woman, catching every detail. The tension, the arrogance, the nerve. Nathan stepped forward and dropped the stack of papers onto the small table near the bed. Sarah flinched at the sound. "I didn't want to do this like this," Nathan said. "But you weren't answering your phone, and I can't drag this out." "Drag what out?" she asked, her voice low. He looked at her then, and she saw it, that tiny flash of guilt that disappeared just as quickly as it came. "The papers are for custody," he said. "I'm signing over my parental rights." Silence. Liam blinked, his fists slowly clenched. Sarah felt like her heart stopped beating, like she was suspended in time, watching her life fall apart all over again. "What?" she whispered. Nathan shrugged, as if it was nothing. "It's better this way. I'm not ready for any of this, and I met someone else. Someone who doesn't want a child in the picture," Liam cut in, his voice quiet, but full of steel. The woman's expression flickered. Sarah's lip trembled. "You're just walking away?" "I already did," Nathan said flatly. "I'm just making it official." He glanced at the woman beside him. She nodded, confirming something silently. Then they both turned to leave, just like that. But Liam stepped forward, blocking the door. "Wait," he said, calm but commanding. "You don't get to just drop papers and walk away like this." Nathan scoffed. "It's none of your business." "It became my business the second you left her in a hospital bed hours after giving birth." Liam's voice had a sharp edge to it now. Sarah stared at them, unsure what to feel. Rage, heartbreak, numbness. It all swirled together in her chest like a storm. "She'll be fine," Nathan muttered. "She's strong." "No," Sarah finally spoke, her voice shaking. "I was strong for both of us, through everything, the job loss, the stress, the panic attacks. I kept showing up," her voice cracked. "I thought you'd do the same." Nathan paused at the door, but he didn't turn back. He didn't say goodbye, he just walked away, this time for real. When the door closed behind them, Sarah sat in stunned silence. The baby stirred gently in her arms, still unaware that the world around her had just shifted. Again, Liam looked at her, quietly kneeling beside the bed. "Are you okay?" She laughed, bitterly, but it came out more like a sob. "No, but I will be." Her voice trembled with something more powerful than anger, resolve. She looked at the papers on the table, white, clean, official, just like that. Her daughter had no father, but maybe she didn't need one. Liam gently took the papers and flipped through them. He already had a lawyer draft this. That's why he brought her. Sarah said nothing. Liam sat back, his eyes still on the documents. "This isn't just abandonment, Sarah. This is him erasing himself. That's not something you just move on from overnight." "I don't have a choice," she said softly. There was a long pause. Liam looked up at her again. "You're not going back to that apartment, are you?" She shook her head. "I can't. It's full of him." Another pause. "Then come stay at my guest house," he said. Sarah blinked. "What?" "You need time, space, help, privacy, and a roof over your head that doesn't hold memories of someone who walked away from you like this. I can't just—" "You can," he interrupted gently. "There's no catch, no pressure. Just a safe place until you figure out your next step." Sarah searched his face, trying to see if there was any motive she couldn't trust, but all she saw was sincerity. Still, she hesitated. "Why are you really doing this, Liam?" He looked at her for a long time before answering. "When I was 6, he said. "My mom raised me on her own. My dad walked out before I was born. She worked 3 jobs. Slept 4 hours a night, never complained. I grew up thinking I had to become strong enough, so no woman in my life would ever have to go through that alone." He looked at the baby. "I couldn't help her," he whispered, "but maybe I can help you." Sarah's eyes filled again, not from sadness this time, but from something else, something warmer. Before she could respond, the baby let out a tiny cry. She looked down. "She's hungry." Liam stood up, smoothing his shirt sleeves. "I'll let you feed her. Then we'll talk." As he walked to the door, Sarah called softly, "Liam?" He turned. She offered the faintest smile. Thank you for being here." His smile was quiet, but real. "I told you, Sarah," he said, eyes gentle. "You're not alone." He left the room, and for the first time since the labor began, Sarah actually believed it. It had been only 2 days since Sarah left the hospital, but it felt like 2 lifetimes. The ride to Liam's estate was quiet, except for the soft coos of the baby in the car seat beside her. Sarah had stared out the window most of the way, half dazed, cradling a mix of exhaustion, pain, and disbelief. She wasn't sure which one was heavier. Liam didn't say much during the drive, only checking in every so often. "You need to stop for anything?" Or, "She okay back there?" His voice always calm, never pushing, and somehow that made it easier. She expected his home to be cold, grand, distant, too rich to feel real, but when they pulled into the driveway, past tall oak trees and a narrow winding road, what she saw surprised her. The guest house wasn't a mansion or some flashy showpiece. It was small, warm and wrapped in ivy. Light filtered through wide windows, and the soft scent of jasmine hung in the air from the nearby garden. It didn't feel like a billionaire's backyard. It felt like a home. Liam helped her with the bags, just one duffel and a hospital tote. That was all she had brought into the world with her newborn daughter. And somehow, that fact ached more than anything else. He unlocked the door and stepped back. "It's yours, for as long as you need it." Inside, the space was simple. A cozy living room with a small fireplace, soft beige curtains swaying with the breeze, a kitchen tucked into the corner with a breakfast table. 2 bedrooms, one already set up with a crib. Sarah paused when she saw it. The crib was new, the tags were still on it. She turned slowly to Liam. "You set this up?" He looked a little sheepish, rubbing the back of his neck. "I may have called my assistant to panic order some baby essentials after I left the hospital." She let out a shaky laugh. It was the first real one in days. "And the formula, diapers, changing station," she said, scanning the room. "Also panic ordered," he admitted, smiling. "I Googled, 'What does a newborn need?' at 3 in the morning." She smiled wider this time. "You really didn't have to go that far." "I know," he said softly. "But I wanted to." Their eyes met for a moment too long. Sarah looked away first, focusing on her daughter, now starting to fuss gently in the carrier. She moved to pick her up. "I think she's still hungry," she murmured, walking toward the small sofa. Liam nodded and made himself useful in the kitchen, fixing a glass of water and leaving it by her side without being asked. She noticed how careful he was, not tiptoeing around her like she was broken, but not pretending everything was fine either, just present. After the baby was fed and laid down for a nap in the crib, Sarah sat quietly on the edge of the couch. Her hands wrapped around the glass of water. Liam sat on the far armchair, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. She stared at her feet. "I keep thinking I'll wake up and it'll all go back to before the note, before the silence, before everything I thought I could count on disappeared." Liam listened, but didn't interrupt. Sarah exhaled. "I gave him everything I had, every part of me, and I thought that was love. I thought that meant something." "It did," Liam said. "To you. That still matters." She glanced up at him, her eyes red but steady. "I don't want to be angry forever," she said. "But I don't know how to forgive someone who didn't even say they were sorry." Liam nodded, slowly. "Then don't start with him." She tilted her head. He met her gaze. "Start with yourself." She sat with that for a long time. Outside, the sun dipped lower, casting golden light across the windows. The baby shifted in the crib, letting out a soft sigh in her sleep. Sarah leaned her head back against the sofa. Eyes fluttering closed for a moment. Liam stood gently. "I'll let you rest. I'll be back later with dinner." "You don't have to." "I want to," he said again. And this time, she didn't argue. He paused at the door. "By the way, what's her name?" Sarah opened her eyes, startled for a second. "No one's asked me that yet," she said quietly. She looked toward the crib, then back at him. "Hope," she said. "Her name is Hope." Liam smiled, the kind that came from deep in the chest, the kind you didn't fake. "It suits her." And with that, he stepped outside. Sarah watched him go, her heart feeling something unfamiliar, safe. But as she leaned back and closed her eyes again, she didn't see the shadow outside the window, a figure standing by the trees, watching, unmoving, waiting. That night the wind carried the soft sound of crickets, and the trees rustled like they were whispering secrets. Inside the guest house everything was quiet. Sarah had just finished feeding Hope, now peacefully asleep in the crib. A gentle hum played from the white noise machine Liam had installed earlier that afternoon, and for the first time in days, Sarah felt a fragile sense of stillness. She curled up on the couch, a cup of tea between her hands, her eyes drifting toward the window. That's when she saw it, a shadow, right outside. She froze. Someone stood at the edge of the garden, half concealed by the tall hedges, not moving, just watching. Her heart jumped. She blinked hard, and when she looked again, the figure was gone. A cold chill crawled down her spine. She got up slowly, walked to the window and peered out, pressing her forehead to the glass. Nothing. Just the soft glow of the garden lights and the silhouette of the trees swaying in the wind. Maybe I imagined it. Still, she double-checked the locks on the front and back doors before returning to the living room. She sat down again, but her mind wasn't calm anymore. She couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone had been there. Just then, the front door opened. Sarah's breath caught, but it was Liam. He stepped inside, holding a paper bag and a smile. "I brought Thai. Hope you like it spicy." She let out a shaky breath, tension melting just a little. "That scared me." He paused, noticing the way her shoulders were stiff. "Everything okay?" She hesitated. "I think someone was outside just a few minutes ago, in the garden." Liam's expression changed instantly, calm but alert. "Did you see a face?" She shook her head. "No, just a shadow. Could have been my imagination, I guess." "I'll check it out anyway," he said. He didn't waste a second, walked back outside, scanning the area. She watched from the window as he circled the hedges, checked behind the guest house, and finally returned 10 minutes later. "No sign of anyone," he said. "But I'll increase security. I'll have a guard patrol this side of the property, especially at night." She looked down, embarrassed. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to overreact. I just—" "You didn't," he said gently. "You're protecting your daughter. There's no need to apologize for that." The way he said it, so calmly, so surely like it was the most natural thing in the world, it made Sarah feel something strange in her chest, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Safety. They ate together in the kitchen, plates between them, Hope still sleeping in the next room. Sarah laughed when Liam tried to eat the spicy curry and coughed halfway through, reaching for his water. "Okay, I lied," he said. "Way spicier than I remember." She smiled. "You don't have to keep doing all this, you know." "I'm not doing it because I have to," he said. "I'm doing it because I want to." The air between them grew quieter then, softer. Sarah looked down at her plate, down at her. "You said earlier that your dad left before you were born. Do you ever think about him?" Liam leaned back, thoughtful. "Not much, but when I do, I think about all the things he missed." "Like what?" "Like the first time I tied my shoes, or my high school graduation, or the night I got into college and my mom cried for an hour straight." He smiled faintly. He missed the best parts. Sarah nodded slowly. "That's what I want for Hope. I want her to grow up knowing she wasn't the reason someone left, that she was the reason I stayed standing." Liam looked at her with something deeper than admiration, something like respect. "You already are," he said. The moment stretched long between them. Then, from the baby monitor, a soft cry broke through the quiet. Sarah stood quickly, the instinct kicking in like second nature. But Liam rose too. "Can I help?" She paused at the door, surprised. "You sure?" "I've been reading baby books all afternoon," he admitted with a grin. "I need to earn some practice points." She laughed. Genuinely, and nodded. All right, come on, rookie. In the nursery, Hope was squirming gently, her tiny fists waving in the air. Sarah picked her up and rocked her gently. Liam stood nearby, watching in awe. She's so small, he whispered. It's crazy how something that tiny can flip a whole life upside down. Sarah looked down at her daughter. She didn't flip it, she saved it. Then, without really thinking, she turned slightly and held Hope out toward him. Do you want to hold her? Liam's eyes widened just a little. You sure? Sarah nodded. Just support her head. He stepped forward slowly, carefully taking the baby in his arms. She looked impossibly small against his chest, her breath soft and warm against his shirt. Liam froze. Hope blinked sleepily up at him, and something in his expression changed. It wasn't panic, it was awe. She's perfect, he whispered. Sarah watched him, this powerful man so confident in meetings and boardrooms, now completely disarmed by a 7-pound bundle of life. He looked at Sarah then, and for a split second the world stood still. But in the corner of the nursery window, unseen by both, the same shadow moved again, watching. Closer now. The next morning came quietly with pale sunlight stretching across the floor of the guest house. Sarah woke to the gentle sounds of Hope breathing beside her in the crib. A soft breeze drifted in through the open window, carrying the scent of jasmine and something warm, coffee. She sat up slowly, rubbed her eyes, and walked into the kitchen. Liam was there, shirt sleeves rolled up, tieless again, barefoot, and carefully pouring coffee into 2 mugs. The toaster popped behind him. Scrambled eggs sizzled on the stove. You cook? She asked, surprised by the sight. He smiled. Don't act so shocked. I lived alone for a decade before hiring a chef. She laughed, brushing a hand through her loose hair. You woke up early? He handed her a mug. Didn't sleep much. She sipped the coffee. Grateful. Worried about the garden ghost? Maybe a little. His eyes met hers, something unreadable behind them. Thoughtful, guarded. Security did a sweep of the property around 3 a.m. They didn't find anything unusual, he added. She nodded, but the unease still lingered in the back of her mind like a low hum. The rest of the morning passed quietly. They ate breakfast, changed Hope, laughed when she sneezed 5 times in a row. It felt almost normal, until Sarah decided to step outside, just to get some air. Hope had drifted off again, and Liam was in the main house on a business call, so she slipped on a cardigan, stepped out onto the small porch, and wandered to the garden. The flowers were in full bloom. White roses, bright zinnias, tall lavender. The place was peaceful, beautiful. But as she turned toward the side gate, she saw it. Something tucked into the vines, a piece of paper, folded, weather-worn, pressed into the fence, just above where she'd seen the shadow the night before. Her heart raced as she stepped forward, pulling it loose. She unfolded the note with trembling fingers. It was her name. Sarah, please talk to me. I made a mistake. No signature, no explanation, just that one sentence, written in familiar handwriting. Her stomach dropped. Nathan. How did he get past security? Why would he sneak around just to leave a note? And what mistake? He hadn't hesitated to walk out. He hadn't blinked when he signed those papers. She looked over her shoulder. Everything was still. Hope was inside, sleeping peacefully. But Sarah, she couldn't shake the feeling that Nathan wasn't done. She walked back into the guest house and sat on the couch, the note still clutched in her hand, her mind spinning with questions. A few minutes later, Liam returned. His phone was still in his hand, but the moment he saw her face, he stopped cold. What happened? She held up the paper wordlessly. He took it from her gently, read it, and his jaw tightened. His posture changed, like armor locking into place. He was here again, she said, voice low. He left that. Liam folded the note slowly. You're not safe here. She blinked. You think he's dangerous? I think he's unpredictable, Liam replied. And I don't like that he's coming back around after everything he did, especially when you're finally finding your footing again. He looked toward the window, his voice sharper now. I'll have more guards stationed. We'll install cameras at every entrance. Motion detectors, I'll handle it. Sarah touched his arm. Liam? Thank you. His eyes met hers again. But before either of them could speak, Hope started crying. Sarah stood up to go to her, but Liam stopped her, softly. Let me. She hesitated. You sure? He smiled, a little tired, but sure. Let's see if she remembers the guy with the spicy curry. She watched him walk to the nursery and gently scoop Hope into his arms. The moment stretched. It didn't feel like a man doing a favor. It felt like a father learning how to love. Sarah leaned against the wall, overwhelmed by something she hadn't dared let herself feel in a long time. Hope. But outside, in the shadows of the trees just beyond the fence, a pair of eyes watched again, and this time he stepped closer. That night, Liam didn't leave the guest house. He insisted on staying. Not hovering, not crowding, just there. Sitting in the living room with his laptop open and his phone nearby, eyes flicking toward the windows every few minutes like a silent sentry. Sarah didn't argue. She didn't have the energy to pretend she wasn't scared. She kept thinking about the note, about Nathan's handwriting, about the word mistake, as if that was enough to undo everything he'd done, as if her tears, her silence, her empty hospital room could just be erased with a single sentence. The house was quiet. Hope had finally fallen asleep after a long, fussy evening, curled against Sarah's chest in the rocking chair. Liam peeked into the nursery around midnight just to check on them. Sarah looked up, whispering, "She's out." Liam smiled. "You should be too." "I'm afraid if I fall asleep, I'll wake up and this will all feel like a dream." He walked in slowly, crouching down beside the chair. "It's not. You're here, she's here, and whatever he's trying to do now, it won't change what he already gave up." Sarah looked down at Hope, her fingers brushing lightly against the baby's tiny hand. "Do you ever wish you could forget someone?" she asked softly. Liam thought for a long time before answering. "No, even the worst people in our lives, they teach us something." She met his eyes. "What did he teach you?" she asked. Liam's voice dropped. "That no matter how much someone promises, they'll stay. You have to be ready to stand alone anyway." The room was still. Sarah nodded slowly. "Then I guess I've learned that I'm stronger than I ever thought I'd have to be." A beat of silence passed. Liam stood, gently brushing a hand over Hope's head. "Get some sleep. I'll stay out here." She watched him go, her heart heavier and lighter all at once. A few hours later, the knock came. 4 soft knocks. Just after 2:01 a.m., Liam's eyes snapped open. He was on the couch, still dressed. He stood immediately. Sarah stirred in the other room, hearing it too. Another knock. Liam opened the front door slowly. And there he was. Nathan, standing in the moonlight, hands in his jacket pockets, shoulders hunched. Not from cold, but from shame. "What are you doing here?" Liam asked, voice firm. Nathan's eyes were red. I need to talk to her." "No, I need 5 minutes." "You lost that right when you walked out." Nathan exhaled sharply. "I know I messed up, but I didn't think she'd actually be okay without me. I thought she'd fall apart, call me, beg." Liam's jaw tightened. Nathan's voice cracked. "But she didn't. She just moved on. And that terrified me more than the baby ever did." "You don't deserve to see her. I just want to talk." "Liam!" A long pause. Then Sarah's voice behind them. "It's okay?" Liam turned to see her standing in the hallway, arms folded, eyes clear, not angry, not broken, just done. Nathan stepped forward, unsure. "Sarah?" "Say what you came to say," she interrupted. "But know this. Nothing you say will bring back the moment you chose to leave. Nathan swallowed hard. I panicked. I thought I couldn't be a father. I didn't know how to be. And you still don't, she said gently. But the worst part isn't that you left. It's that you never looked back. He looked down. I thought I could come back and make it right, he whispered. Sarah stepped closer. Hope isn't a mistake you fix. Nathan, she's a miracle you missed. Tears burned in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. I don't hate you, she said. I'm just done waiting for you to be the person I needed you to be. Nathan's shoulders sank. He looked at her one last time, like he was hoping to find a piece of the past still waiting for him. But there was nothing, and Sarah didn't feel empty. She felt free. Nathan turned and walked back into the night, alone. Sarah stood in the doorway for a long time, the cold air brushing her skin. Liam came to her side, quiet. You okay? She nodded. For the first time, yeah. He didn't say anything. Just stood with her, shoulder to shoulder. They both looked out at the trees. The wind moved through them like a sigh. Then Sarah turned to Liam. He left thinking I'd fall apart without him. And you walked in without expecting anything, just to be there. Liam looked at her, eyes quiet, searching. Sarah, she stepped closer. I don't know what this is, she said, her voice soft. But I know what it's not. It's not fear. It's not abandonment. And it's not a mistake. And then she reached for his hand. He took it, slowly, gently, like he'd been waiting for her to reach first. And in that moment, nothing needed to be said. Because in the quiet that followed, Sarah finally felt what she'd been longing for since the day Hope was born. Home. The next few days felt different. Not perfect, not without their challenges, but different in the way that spring feels after a long, cruel winter. Sarah found herself smiling more often, not the polite, practiced smile she gave at work or in uncomfortable conversations, but the real kind, the kind that crept up slowly and stayed on her face longer than she expected. Hope was growing fast. She had started responding to sounds, blinking those big blue eyes and curling her tiny hands around Sarah's fingers. Liam came by every morning and every evening, sometimes to bring breakfast, sometimes to help with diaper changes, and other times just to sit near them, quietly present. They didn't rush anything, no labels, no promises, just moments. Each one more honest than the last. One afternoon, while Hope napped and a soft rain tapped against the windows, Sarah sat on the floor in the nursery, folding baby clothes. Liam was sitting cross-legged beside her, trying to figure out how to assemble a baby mobile. You're putting the moon upside down, she teased, laughing. He squinted. It's artistic interpretation. Maybe this baby's a rebel. Sarah giggled and shook her head, placing a tiny sock in the drawer. Then he glanced at her, more serious now. Have you thought about going back to work? She paused. A little, eventually. But everything feels different now. You don't have to come back to the office right away, Liam said carefully. I just wanted you to know your job is still yours. And if you want, I can have you work remotely for a while. She looked at him, surprised. You'd do that? I meant what I said, Sarah. I don't want you to feel like you have to rush back just to prove something. You've already done more than most people would survive. There it was again, that tone in his voice. Warm, steady, protective without being possessive. She felt her chest tighten in a good way. You really are nothing like I thought you were, she said quietly. He raised a brow. How'd you see me before all this? She smirked. Strict, cold, maybe a little scary, he chuckled. Only a little? Okay. A lot, she admitted, laughing. He smiled wide. A real, full smile. And Sarah felt something flutter inside her that she wasn't quite ready to name. Then the doorbell rang. They both froze. The sound echoed through the guest house, unexpected, unannounced. Sarah stood instantly alert. Liam followed, and they both walked carefully to the door. When she opened it, a wave of confusion rushed over her. A woman stood there, late 50s, gray-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun, raincoat soaked from the storm. She held a small purse and a look that was hard to read, somewhere between nervous and hopeful. "Can I help you?" Sarah asked politely. The woman's voice was quiet. "I'm looking for Sarah Hayes." Sarah blinked. "That's me." The woman gave a faint smile. "I'm Nathan's mother." Time stopped. Sarah's breath caught. "I'm sorry," the woman said quickly. "I didn't mean to intrude. I know this is probably the last thing you expected. But how did you find me?" Sarah asked, not harshly, but carefully. "I went to your old apartment. The landlord said you moved out. I called Nathan, begged him to tell me where you were. He didn't want to, but he slipped up. He mentioned a guest house, a man named Liam. I searched." Sarah stepped back slightly, unsure. Liam stood beside her now, protective, calm. The woman looked at him, then back at Sarah. "I just wanted to see her." Sarah's hand instinctively moved to the doorframe behind her, as if to shield Hope, even though she wasn't in sight. "I wasn't in your life, and I'm sorry for that," Nathan's mother said. "I always told him he wasn't ready for a child, but I didn't know what he'd done until after. When he showed up at my house with a suitcase and an empty look in his eyes, I knew something had happened. But I didn't know he left you at the hospital." She swallowed hard. "I didn't raise him to be that kind of man." Sarah felt something shift inside her. Pain, but also empathy. Liam looked at Sarah, quietly asking if she wanted to send her away, but Sarah hesitated. Then she opened the door a little wider. "She's sleeping, but if you want to wait, you can come in." The woman stepped in slowly, eyes filling with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. As Sarah led her inside, Liam followed, watching everything closely, not because he didn't trust her, but because he cared enough to stay near. The woman sat gently in the living room, glancing at the soft pink blanket on the edge of the couch. "What's her name?" she asked. Sarah answered without hesitation. "Hope." Nathan's mother nodded, eyes glistening. "A fitting name for a girl who might just be the best thing my son ever did, even if he didn't realize it." Sarah sat across from her, uncertain. The woman looked up. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just want to know my granddaughter, even if it's just from a distance. And if you'll allow it, I'd like to help you. Diapers, clothes, support, whatever you need." Liam looked at Sarah again. But this time he didn't speak. He let her decide. Sarah sat quietly for a few moments, her thoughts racing. Then she nodded. "Okay, but everything happens on my terms. If Hope ever feels confused or hurt by any of this, I end it. No questions asked." The woman nodded immediately. "Absolutely. Anything you need. I didn't want to disappear the way he did." Sarah leaned back slowly, exhaling. Outside, the rain eased into a drizzle, and inside, something that had been locked tight for months started to open. It wasn't trust. Not yet, but it was something close. The rain had finally stopped. Nathan's mother, Helen, stayed for nearly 2 hours. She didn't press, didn't pry, didn't make herself too comfortable. She just sat, asked quiet questions about Hope, listened, and cried when Sarah, holding the baby in her arms, said softly, "She likes being sung to before sleep." When Helen stood to leave, she paused at the door and turned to Sarah. "I know my son hurt you, and I know I can never make that right, but I want you to know something," she said. "You are a better mother than most women I've ever known. Hope is lucky to have you." Sarah swallowed the lump in her throat. "Thank you," she whispered. Helen left, and Sarah stood at the door for a long time after, holding Hope close to her chest, watching the puddles shimmer on the driveway, unsure whether her chest felt heavier or lighter. Liam walked up behind her, quiet as always. "Are you okay?" "I think so," she replied. "So?" Then turned to face him. That was the last person I ever thought I'd see again. You handled it with grace." She let out a breath. "I don't know if it was grace or just exhaustion." Liam smiled gently, and Sarah gave a soft smile in return. The baby squirmed, eyes fluttering open. "She's waking up," Sarah whispered. "You want to hold her?" Liam blinked, a little surprised, but stepped forward without hesitation. He cradled Hope like he had a dozen times before, but this time she looked up at him, really looked at him. And Sarah noticed it, the tiny smile, the calm in her body, like she knew she was safe. "She likes you," Sarah said softly. "I like her too," he replied, never taking his eyes off the baby. There was a beat of silence. Then Liam glanced up. "Sarah, I need to tell you something." Her heart stopped for half a second. "What is it?" He sat down on the edge of the couch, Hope still in his arms. "I wasn't entirely honest with you about how I found out you were in the hospital." Sarah furrowed her brow. "You said your assistant told you." "She did, but only after I asked her to keep an eye on you." Sarah's face changed, confusion first, then something softer. "Why?" He sighed. "Because I saw you crying in that elevator 2 months ago, and I knew something wasn't right. I kept telling myself it wasn't my place. That I was just your boss, but I couldn't stop thinking about it." He looked up at her. "I started noticing everything, the longer hours, the quieter voice, the way you stopped smiling when you thought no one was looking." Sarah sat slowly across from him, stunned. "I didn't know what you were going through," he said. "But I knew you were doing it alone." Sarah felt tears prick at her eyes. She hadn't realized how seen she felt until now. "So you started watching me?" "Not in a creepy way," he added quickly, smiling nervously. "I just paid attention. And when the receptionist mentioned you weren't in that Monday morning, something in my gut just said, 'Go.'" Sarah wiped under her eyes, laughing softly. "I thought you were just being nice." "I'm not nice," Liam said playfully. "I'm famously difficult." She laughed, and he smiled wider. Then something shifted. The room grew quiet again. Hope had fallen back asleep against his chest, one tiny hand gripping Liam's shirt collar. Sarah looked at them both, and something inside her cracked open. She reached over slowly, placing her hand gently on his, the one holding the baby. He looked at her. "I don't know what this is," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm not afraid of it anymore." Liam didn't answer right away. He just stared at her, a softness in his eyes that was rare and raw. Then he leaned forward slowly, like asking permission with every movement. And she didn't pull back. Their lips met in a kiss so quiet it felt like a promise. Not rushed, not perfect, but real. When they pulled apart, neither said a word. Hope stirred slightly, making a small sound between them, like even she could feel the change in the room. Liam laughed softly. "Guess we're officially supervised now." Sarah smiled through watery eyes. Later that night, after Hope had fallen asleep and the house was quiet, Sarah glanced at her phone. One unread message. Nathan. He hadn't called again since the night she sent him away. Until now, no apology, no explanation, just a missed call. She stared at the screen for a moment. Then, without a word, she deleted it. Not out of anger, but because some stories end quietly, and some people are meant to stay in the past. Just as she set the phone down, Liam's expression changed. Not fear, but caution. "I haven't told you everything," he said quietly. Sarah tilted her head. "About what?" "Cole Maddox," he replied. Before he disappeared, he had access to people inside my company, surveillance contractors, IT vendors. For a while I suspected he planted eyes on me, digital or otherwise. She blinked, processing. "Wait, are you saying he's been watching you?" Liam nodded. "And if he was, then he's probably seen you. Seen us." "You think he knows we're close?" "I think he knows enough to use it," Liam said, voice tense. "He won't come after me first. He'll go after what he thinks I won't risk losing." Sarah looked down at Hope and understood exactly what he meant, but before the moment could settle fully, Liam's phone buzzed sharply on the table. He frowned and picked it up. A message from an unknown number. He read it, and his face went pale. "What is it?" Sarah asked. Liam slowly turned the screen toward her. It was a photo of them, right now, through the nursery window, taken just moments ago. Sarah's blood ran cold. Below the photo, a message. "You think she's safe with him? Think again." The photo on Liam's phone burned into Sarah's mind like a warning written in fire. Her heart thundered in her chest as she stared at the screen. The image was clear, too clear. It had been taken just minutes ago, from outside, through the window behind them. She could see herself, Liam, Hope, sitting on the couch, smiling, together. And someone had been watching. "Liam?" Her voice shook. "Who sent that?" He didn't speak right away. He was already moving, standing up fast, gently laying Hope down on the couch pillow, his hands trembling slightly as he called someone. "Frank," he said into the phone, low but urgent. "We've got a breach. I need eyes on the east window of the guest house. Now, someone just sent me a photo of us from inside. This wasn't from the security cameras. It was personal." He paused, listening. "Shut down the gates. Review the past 4 hours of footage. I want anyone who got close to this house identified within the hour." Sarah stood frozen. Then she turned and rushed to close all the curtains. One by one, she pulled them shut with shaking hands. Her mind was racing. Who would do this? Nathan? Someone trying to scare her? Was this about her? Or was it about Liam? Liam ended the call and turned to her. "Sit," he said more gently now. "Stay with Hope. You're safe in here, I swear." "Liam," she whispered, her voice cracking. "What if this isn't about me?" He paused. "What if it's about you?" she asked. "You're a billionaire CEO. You must have enemies, people watching you, hating you, wanting to hurt what matters to you." Liam's jaw tightened. For a moment he looked away. And then he nodded. "There's someone," he said quietly. "Someone I put out of business a few years ago. We tried to help him, offered to buy him out fairly, but he refused. And when the deal fell through, he lost everything. His name is Cole Maddox." Sarah had never heard that name before. Liam sat down beside her again, hands clasped tightly. "He blamed me for everything, and not just professionally, personally. He said I ruined his life." Her eyes widened. "Do you think this is him?" "I don't know, but I haven't heard from him in years. Not a whisper. Until now." They both looked down at Hope, sleeping peacefully, unaware of the storm building around her. "Why would he come after me?" Sarah asked, struggling to keep her voice steady. Liam met her eyes. "Because now I care about you, and he'd know that." The weight of his words hit her harder than she expected. This wasn't just about her being a single mother anymore. This was about what they were becoming, together, a unit, a family, and someone out there wanted to break that. Suddenly, Liam's phone buzzed again. He checked the screen. This time, it was a name, Cole Maddox, and the message was short. "I told you I'd destroy what you love. It starts with her." Liam stood instantly. "We're leaving." Sarah's eyes widened. "What? You and Hope? We're not staying here another night. I have a safe house in the city. No one outside my inner circle knows where it is. It has 24/7 security, reinforced doors, underground access if we need it. I won't take chances with you two." He was already packing a small bag, grabbing Hope's essentials and checking his watch. Sarah sat frozen for a moment, arms wrapped around herself. This wasn't just emotional anymore. It was dangerous. Liam paused at the door. "Sarah, I need you to trust me now." She looked at him. This man, once her boss, now something infinitely more, was standing there, willing to give up everything to protect her and a child that wasn't even his. She nodded. "I do." He walked over, scooped Hope up carefully, and placed a gentle kiss on the top of her head. Then he looked back at Sarah. "I promised I wouldn't let you go through this alone." And as they stepped out into the cool night air, sliding into a black SUV with tinted windows and a silent driver already waiting, Sarah looked down at Hope, still asleep in her arms. She didn't cry, she didn't panic, she didn't tremble, because this time she wasn't running away from something, she was running toward something better. But as the SUV turned out of the long driveway and disappeared into the trees, a car parked half a block down turned its headlights on. Inside, a man watched the taillights vanish into the distance. He smirked and whispered, "Let the game begin." The safe house was nothing like Sarah expected. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't cold or clinical. It was tucked behind high concrete walls and unmarked from the street, like it didn't want to be found. Inside it was warm, lived in, and surprisingly quiet for a place designed to keep people out. Liam had clearly been here before. He walked the halls like muscle memory, checking each door, each window. The security team greeted him with calm efficiency, running scans, installing surveillance feeds, and confirming motion sensors around the perimeter. Sarah watched all of it unfold with Hope in her arms, silently absorbing every detail. She was trying to stay calm, for her daughter, for herself. But fear hung around her shoulders like a weighted blanket. It had all changed so fast. Just a few days ago, she was crying in a hospital bed, feeling abandoned and forgotten. Now she was being guarded, watched, and hidden because someone out there wanted to harm her. No, them. "Here," Liam said gently, walking into the room where Sarah sat. "I brought some of Hope's things from the guest house. Blankets, bottles, her giraffe toy." He handed the small plush giraffe to Sarah, and she smiled faintly. "She won't sleep without this," she murmured, rubbing the soft ears between her fingers. "I remembered," he said. Their eyes met. There was a moment of stillness between them, a kind of quiet knowing, before Liam broke it. "I spoke to the head of security. They traced the photo to a burner phone. No signal trace, no SIM registration. He's being careful." "Cole," Sarah said softly. Liam nodded. "And he's escalating. This isn't about intimidation anymore. He's watching, planning." Sarah looked down at Hope. The baby's chest rose and fell gently in her arms. "What does he want?" she asked. "Money?" "No," Liam replied. "Cole doesn't want money. He wants me to feel powerless, the way he felt when he lost everything." Sarah's voice was quieter now. "Then why come after me?" Liam sat on the edge of the coffee table across from her, leaning forward. "Because you're the one thing in my life he can touch that I can't afford to lose." Her breath caught. The weight of those words settled between them like a secret no one had dared say out loud. Until now. But before Sarah could respond, Liam's phone vibrated again. He checked the screen and frowned, then stood, dialing fast. "What do you mean he's not outside anymore?" Sarah sat upright. "Liam, what's happening?" He pressed the phone to his ear. Voice sharp. "You said 2 men were stationed at the back alley. Where are they now?" Pause, then, "What do you mean they're not responding?" Sarah stood quickly, holding Hope tighter. The baby stirred, sensing the tension. Liam ended the call and turned to her, his expression tight, focused. "Go to the panic room." "What? Now?" "Down the hallway, second door on the left. Code's 1984. Press the red button on the inside. It seals the door. No one gets in or out without me." "Liam," he stepped forward, cupping her cheek for a brief second. "I'll find you. I swear." She nodded, and then she ran. Hope let out a tiny cry as Sarah sprinted down the hall, her heart slamming against her ribs. She reached the second door, typed in the code, and threw it open. The room was small, steel-reinforced, with a screen showing external camera feeds, an oxygen vent, and a safe crib built into the wall. She stepped in and slammed the door behind her, pressing the red button. Clunk! Locks engaged. Outside the door, Liam grabbed the hidden pistol from the cabinet beneath the bookshelf, then opened the side closet where the emergency panel was mounted. The security feed flickered. Then It went black. All of it. Every single camera. Liam's earpiece crackled with static. Then came the urgent voice of Frank, the head of security. "He took down the entire system in under 10 seconds, Frank said. "No alarms, no trace. It's like he knew our blind spots." Liam's jaw tightened. "Of course he did," he muttered. "He used to build surveillance networks for defense contractors. He knows exactly where to strike." Liam's blood ran cold. And in that exact moment, the front door, locked and bolted, suddenly burst open with a blast of smoke and glass. He dropped to the floor, rolling behind the nearest pillar as two men in black rushed in, weapons drawn. They didn't speak. They didn't shout. They were here for something or someone. "Her." Liam breathed heavily, gun tight in his grip. He waited, counted the steps, then came up firing. 2 controlled shots, enough to startle and push the intruders back. He ran for the hallway towards the panic room, but just before he reached it, a figure stepped into his path. Cole Maddox. Older than the photo Liam remembered, shaved head, a long scar across his neck, cold eyes that didn't blink. "Hello, Grayson," he said as casually as if they'd run into each other at a cafe. Liam didn't hesitate. "You made a mistake coming here," Cole smiled. "No, you made the mistake. Thinking you could build something I couldn't take away." Liam aimed his weapon. Cole raised his hands. "You won't shoot me, not if you want the baby to be safe." Liam's voice dropped. "What did you do?" But before Cole could answer, the silent panic room activated a beacon, flashing red behind the hallway wall. A new voice crackled through Liam's earpiece. "We've got backup inbound." 2 minutes out, Liam stepped forward slowly, rage simmering under the surface. "You came for a child, Cole. You crossed a line you can't uncross." "I didn't come to hurt her," Cole said, stepping back. "I came to prove a point. You build a life thinking money protects you, but love makes you vulnerable. Love. That's what I wanted to see." "Now you've seen it," Liam growled, "and you're not walking out." Cole smirked and ran. Liam fired once, grazing his arm, but Cole disappeared down the service stairs. The other intruders were already gone, ghosted before the sirens arrived. Security stormed in seconds later. But the threat was gone, for now. Inside the panic room, Sarah held Hope tightly, her eyes wide, her heart in her throat. The silence outside was deafening. Then, a knock on the steel. 1 knock. Then 2. Then Liam's voice, muffled through the door. "It's me. You're safe." Sarah opened the lock with trembling fingers and threw the door open. Liam stood there, covered in dust, blood on his temple, chest heaving. She didn't speak. She just ran to him, threw her arms around his neck, and cried into his shoulder. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have stopped this before it started." Sarah pulled back, her eyes full of fear and something else. "You can't protect us forever, Liam." He looked at her, shaking his head. "I don't have to protect you forever." She stared. "Just long enough," he said, "until he's gone for good." And behind them, Hope let out a small sigh. Still sleeping. Still safe. For now. 3 weeks later, the world looked different. The sun filtered through the tall windows of the safe house's garden lounge, casting golden light over the baby blanket spread across the grass. Hope lay on her back, kicking her legs in the air, giggling at the rustling leaves above her. Sarah watched her from a few feet away, arms around her knees, heart full and anxious at the same time. Everything had been quiet since that night. No messages, no threats, no shadows at the window. Cole Maddox had vanished again, and no one, not Liam's elite security team, not private investigators, not even federal authorities, had been able to track him down. But Sarah knew he wasn't gone. He was waiting, watching. And she didn't want to spend the rest of her life in fear. So today, she had made a choice. She turned her head toward the patio where Liam stood, phone pressed to his ear, pacing. But slower than usual. He was always working, always calculating, always. But lately his mind was divided, half in business, half with them. She saw it in the way he looked at Hope now, in the way he paused whatever he was doing when Sarah entered the room, like nothing else mattered more than making sure she was okay. Liam ended the call and walked toward her, slipping his phone into his back pocket. "The cameras are being upgraded again tomorrow, and we'll have 2 guards rotating at night, even during the quiet hours." Sarah nodded, but didn't say anything. He sat beside her, the grass warm under them, the quiet hum of the city in the distance. "You're still thinking about it," he said. She looked at him. "Of course I am." He waited. Then she added, "I can't let him control what kind of life I build. Not anymore. I spent so long being afraid of everything falling apart that I forgot what it feels like to choose something good." He watched her carefully. "And what do you want to choose, Sarah?" She looked down at Hope, who was now clutching her stuffed giraffe with both fists. "I want her to grow up in a world that doesn't feel like a trap. I want her to laugh without looking over her shoulder. I want her to know she wasn't born into fear. She was born into freedom." Liam's hand found hers in the grass, slowly, without pressure. "I'll support whatever decision you make," he said. "If you want to leave, stay, move, change names, go somewhere no one knows us, I'll go with you." She turned toward him. "You'd give up everything?" "I already have," he said softly. "And it's the best decision I've ever made." Her breath hitched. She hadn't expected the weight of that truth, but before she could reply, a car rolled up the driveway. She stood quickly, shielding Hope instinctively, eyes narrowing as the vehicle came to a stop. The back door opened, and a man stepped out, not Cole. It was an agent, tall, calm, wearing a dark jacket and a badge clipped to his belt. "Mr. Grayson?" the man asked. Liam stood beside Sarah now. "That's me." The agent nodded. "We found him." Sarah's breath stopped. "Cole?" she asked. "Oh, yes. He was picked up in New Mexico this morning, operating under an alias, armed but not resisting. He'll face multiple federal charges. He's not getting out this time." Sarah felt her knees weaken. She looked down at Hope, then at Liam. "It's over?" she whispered. The agent nodded. "It's over." He handed Liam a folder and stepped back into the car. As the vehicle drove away, the silence left behind was different. It wasn't tense anymore. It was relief. Sarah sat down slowly in the grass, Hope now squealing happily as she grabbed her mother's fingers. Liam knelt beside them. They didn't speak for a while. They just watched Hope roll over for the first time, her tiny arms flapping with joy like she'd just won the lottery. And then Sarah turned to Liam, voice gentle. "She'll never know the darkness she was born into." Liam's voice matched hers. "She'll only know what you showed her. Love, strength, choice." Sarah looked at him, eyes glistening. "And you. She'll know you." He tilted his head. "Me?" "You saved us," she said. Liam shook his head. "You saved yourself. I just stood beside you." Tears filled her eyes. Then, without needing to ask, she leaned into him, and he wrapped his arms around her, not like a man protecting someone fragile, but like someone holding the future in his hands. Later that night, as stars blinked into the sky, Sarah rocked Hope gently in the nursery. The window was open just a crack, and a breeze rustled the curtain. She whispered softly, "You were born in chaos, but you're growing in peace. You're my hope." Hope blinked sleepily, then smiled, and somewhere deep inside Sarah, something unshakable took root. She had survived. She had rebuilt. And now, she had someone who stayed. The next morning, Liam walked into the nursery holding a small velvet box. He didn't kneel. He didn't say a word. He just handed it to her. Sarah opened it. Inside wasn't a ring. It was a tiny golden locket. She opened it. On one side, a photo of Hope. On the other, one word engraved in delicate cursive. "Ours." Sarah looked at him, eyes wide. Liam smiled. "You've given me more than I ever knew I wanted. I'm not asking for forever. I'm just asking to keep choosing this. She reached for his hand and chose it again and again and again. The end. Now it's your turn. Have you ever had to start over when you didn't feel ready, but ended up finding something better than you imagined? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your story, and if this story touched your heart, let me know by leaving a like. It really helps us keep creating more stories like this. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you never miss a moment that might just change how you see life. Thank you for watching. For